one of us for several years. And what you have done, I don't think anyone can even accomplish something even a percent near it. So you inspire us.
Well, thank you. It's mutual then. So just to tell you all before we start, Tanya and I were actually in school together, and it's so wonderful to reconnect again now through this, and we've been in touch, of course. So to introduce Tanya to you all, she's currently working in the Threat and Risk Service Unit under the United Nations Department of Safety and Security, UNDSS, at the UN headquarters in New York. She's heading the training unit and is responsible for conducting a main analytical course for UN personnel. She's also the Senior Security Information Analyst responsible for looking at the different threats trend in the security situation globally. She moved to New York in October 2020 after working for nearly 4 years in Somalia. She's originally from India. Her parents belong to Jhansi and Lucknow in UP, and she believes her roots are still here. So that's why we are connecting to her from Lucknow Farmers Market. She joined the UN in May 2010 and was based in the Philippines, covering Asia Pacific for 7 years. And before that, she worked as a researcher with the Institute for Defence Studies and Analyses, IDSA, the main think tank under the Indian Defence Ministry, for 6 years, and 4 years with the private risk consultancies, International SOS and Hill and Associates. Her father was in the army and a war hero, and then as a director with ONGC. Her mother is a renowned Sufi and folk singer and very actively involved in various cultural activities, as well as a pioneer in the family cuisine from her maternal place of origin, Khairabad near Lucknow. And I can say the food is amazing. Tanya is a multifaceted personality. She also learned Drupad, the oldest form of Indian classical music, from the Dagar brothers and then their son, Ustad Wasifuddin Dagar, and also supported her mother in some of her performances. She's learned Urdu and French as well. She's a graduate in political science honors from Jesus and Mary College, JMC in Delhi, and a postgraduate in international relations and strategic studies from Lancaster University in the UK. So thank you, Tanya, for joining us today, and start by telling us something about your journey.
Thank you, Jyotsna. And again, thank you and your team for inviting me to this very prestigious event that you're hosting every Saturday. And I must say one that is an equally learning experience for me. So my journey in this field has been very interesting. It started right when I was doing my undergraduate in political science honors at the Jesus and Mary College at Delhi University in Delhi. And then I had a module, called International Relations, where you study about the history of conflicts and Cold War, etc., etc. And I kept talking to my mother about it and my father, and they were very keen. I said for the Indian Foreign Service, because of the family members and education, having a very strong emphasis on education in my family. But at that time, and I hope people don't get inspired with this bit, is because I was like, how can I study for 20 hours a day? And, I was not in that mode, focus of mind to give it so much time. And that was probably a mistake that I made. And I want to emphasize here that, if the younger that you are and the more focused you are, and especially if you know the opportunities, go for them at the right time. So then my mother was very keen that I would join the United Nations. We took the advice from the then UNDP head, who advised us to meet the director of the think tank, the IDSA, as you mentioned. And then I became an intern there, looking at the different conflicts and the different external relations between India and other countries, terrorism, counterterrorism, etc. So there it began, and I was only 20 then. And I've been in the same field. So now it's nearly 25 years, including my graduation, my master's in the same field. And it's been a great learning experience. So I love what I do. I was lucky. My parents were always supporting me in whatever I wanted to do, and they pushed me throughout. And of course, I have many other people who've inspired me along the way. And as I mentioned, you are one of the very strong influence and inspiration in my life, Jyotsna.
Thank you, Tanya. That's very sweet of you. But I mean, what you are doing is, it's something that not many people get the chance to do. So, people wonder that, am I the right kind of personality type for this? Is there a type for this? So, I mean, just, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? And how does the personality type sort of affect, your job?
Right. So Jyotsna, something I read as always on social media, new things come up. And I was like, oh my God, this is so much of my type of a personality, a little bit of an introvert and a little bit of an extrovert, somewhere in the middle. And I learned that word that day. It's called ambivert. So it's like best of sometimes. I am an introvert as a person, but at the same time, when it comes to work, I do become an extrovert because my work is meeting people, connecting to people, local communities in different countries. And I love talking to people, getting information. And of course, I do very sensitive work. So, and that has to be kept confidential. So I have to build relationships. So I think any personality would fit into my kind of a field. But it's just that we have to keep in mind that when you're doing this kind of work, you have to be very mature, you have to be very professional, you have to develop relationships based on trust and understanding, mutual confidence. So any type of personality will do. But yes, you have to develop certain skills and hone them further as you grow in your career in this field, especially.
Thank you. That's really very relevant. So though you were not an extrovert, it's something that actually we can develop these, skills as we go along. That's very relevant to say. So of course, you talked about your early journey and how you got into the UN. But now to where you are now, I mean, at the headquarters of the UN, a really prestigious place to be. So where you are now, talk about the hurdles you faced along the way and how you've coped with them.
Right. So the main hurdle I would say was probably a woman usually faces, not in most, I think in generally in different spheres, in different careers, different professions, but mine was also because it was a very male dominated field, especially former military, former police and other law enforcement agencies. So majority of them came from that kind of field. And here we were analysts. A majority of them female without having a professional former military police career. So, some men, I wouldn't say all of them, but we were questioned, okay, she's a woman, A, and B, she doesn't belong to the army or the police or the, in other related enforcement agencies. So what would she know about security? And I was questioned this, like, I think the second day I joined the UN. So, and I was taken aback. I said, that has nothing to do with the gender. And so I was like, and especially when you're doing my kind of a work, when you're going into local communities and very sensitive areas where customs and traditions are very important, it's easier to connect to them being a woman, to understand, to multitask. And I kept explaining this to my seniors, even to my colleagues, that it has nothing to do with the gender. And on the contrary, I think women can do far more, and I don't want to sound like an extreme gender biased person, but I've seen it. We can multitask, we can understand emotions during these kind of relationship building as well. So this was one of the main challenges and the main questions that I was always asked, especially in my field. And not just in the UN, but outside the UN, because we meet different people, host government, security officials, and again, that's more male dominated. So again, this was something, it also gave me an opportunity to enlighten them in some way, or give them that kind of information that here, see me, see my colleagues, and we are doing this, and we're doing a fantastic job with it, So we are good examples. So I would encourage women to get into this field as much if they want to, and then there's nothing holding you back.
But I want to know, specifically talk about the hurdles, maybe since you've lived in so many countries, in South Africa, in the Philippines, and now in the US. I mean, what have you seen in different countries about preconceived notions, particularly in your field and in general?
So in my field, as I said, predominantly, Jyotsna, it was about being a woman, right? And not being from military or police background. That was one thing that I faced. Other than that, hurdles were there, especially when I was working in high risk areas. It becomes very challenging and difficult. And when at that time, of course, you're pushed into the deep end right away. And I was in Somalia, and we were at the UN base, and I was literally living in a container for nearly 4 years. in a protected base, which kept getting attacked by the main terrorist group there, where we were like mortars and bombs. You're always on the edge. We were working 18 hours out of 24 hours. And at that time, Jyotsna, it was very stressful. In fact, my parents were very against that I go there. And I said, of course, I'm not stupid. Once I know that I'm very unsafe, I would leave. But in retrospect, it was a great learning experience. I learned so much that where I am today comes a lot from working in high-risk areas, despite the security challenges, the safety and security risks are majorly there, but then we are given enough protection as well and training.
But it must take so much, strength of character and courage, to do what you're doing. So really, it is very inspiring. Now, of course, the UN is something which a lot of people would aspire to have a career in the UN. And what would you tell people, who want to pick this as a career, that why would they choose the UN? And there are different parts, of course, you being in the security area, but what would be in general your message to young people about the UN as a career?
I think it's a fantastic career. You get an opportunity to work in different countries. If you are someone who wants to continuously and constantly learn, meet people, and learn and in a good way. So I always say I love what I do. I'm very fortunate that way, and then on the other hand, you're giving back to the people, right? So you're working in the humanitarian field. And I always say, when people sometimes question also me, like, in the recent issue that, oh, isn't the UN losing its relevance, et cetera, et cetera. I said, look at my colleagues or even me, when we've been in literally hellholes where a normal person wouldn't even dream of going. But when you see the end result, when you see that you're actually reaching out to the roots, people need help and you're giving it to them, it's a great feeling. And I think each one of us can do that and pursue it through the UN. But at the same time, learn so much also from the organization, different agencies, as per ones. You can join UNICEF if you're interested in education and children in armed conflict, or you can join the United Nations Food and Population Fund for maternal health, or World Food Program, even if you're a nutritionist. So there are so many several agencies, UNDP Development Program, smaller agencies, and you move across the world, and I think that's a fantastic experience for anyone to have if they want to pursue.
That's so amazing how you actually talked about the fact that you are in a position where you can actually change lives, and
Exactly.
you're able to do it at an international level. It must be something, though it's challenging and it must be stressful at times, and at times when you felt in doubt about what you are doing, what have been your learnings along your journey? Can you talk to us specifically about some of them?
I think my learnings came from the people when I saw them in extreme situations, Jyotsna. And my first learning was be thankful and grateful for what we have. We don't realize that. I've seen people eat sand literally because of a famine and not having access to food or water. I've seen people living in camps, born there, grown up there, and died there. Like we've heard of, I've seen like these camps become cities. And then my biggest learning was we have to be grateful and we have to give back. Another learning was understanding relationships, right? As I said, I do very sensitive work of security threat information, collecting that and going into areas of high risk. So just building relationships with all sorts of people, whether they're rebel groups, whether they're intelligence agencies, whether just local communities, children, women, and how to build them further. So a great learning experience, and then learning about countries, customs, cultures. And for me, of course, because it's always my basic work is to see the trends and the dynamics in the conflicts, so to see that also changing over a period of time has been a great learning.
Is that, in a sense, something that's harder to understand, where we would have thought that this kind of conflict should surely not continue, as we get more and more advanced? So how do you deal with that when you see conflict? All around the world now, we're at a time where conflict is only increasing.
I know, and it's extremely distressing because when you look at it from a closer, and I was telling my colleagues that we're following certain conflicts and we're here to resolve them, and the UN is there to peacefully mediate. But unfortunately, I can't say anything why they they increase, and because of certain factors and certain dynamics, but we do see an increase. We do see more complex environments and security, the situation. And I do hope that everything gets resolved fast, because it's a common man who's getting affected here. They're losing their lives, their families are on the road. So hopefully, hoping for the best, but unfortunately, we see this increasing also in different parts of the world.
So tell us what your impact has been. Obviously, you've had a fantastic impact because, I mean, you're at the headquarters at, I think a pretty young age to be at the UN headquarters. I know people don't like talking about age, but since both of us are the same age.
Not at all. I have no qualms to talk about my
Exactly.
age.
So at the age of 46, to be
at 45, my dear.
Okay,
still
sorry.
45.
Still 45, to be at the UN headquarters, it's a pretty amazing thing. So will you talk a little bit about what your impact has been on the organization?
Well, I hope it's been a positive impact, and from what I've heard from my colleagues, I think, of course, that I don't know, it's like maybe blowing one's own trumpet. I don't know how to say this, but from what I get back to my colleagues is something that I stand up for what is right, Jyotsna, wherever in my professional life as well. And even for colleagues, whichever areas they've been in, for my national staff colleagues, for example, in East Africa or all over Asia that I work, to help them in some way. So maybe they came to me for, as an Indian, maybe I have that thing of reaching, they're giving a helping hand, or being there for someone emotionally, because we work in very high risk environments and no one wants to hear someone else's issues because you're so stressed yourself. But what I've been told is, okay, this is what I've done, and probably work-wise, my assessments, my reports, my briefings from the feedback I've got, and the trainings that I'm doing online because of the COVID, I went online, have had a great feedback. And so I don't know how to say this anymore.
No, it's true. You should say it because it's not easy to get where you are, right? So you need to talk about what it is that you have done, and what are the qualities, and what are the things, because these are very, very important sort of attributes and character traits that are more and more important, to stand for what is right, and to unwaveringly do
Absolutely.
that.
And this is something probably I learned as a value, from my family as well, from my parents, right? So always stand up for whoever. You might not know that person, but stand up for them. And I think what I've contributed is, I'll give you a recent example. So when I moved to New York to the headquarters, and I'm heading this analytical training, which is an in-person training, which we give in our training center in South Italy or North Italy or across the globe, Bangkok, Nairobi, etc. But because of COVID, there were restrictions. So then I said, oh my God, I can't sit here and not do anything. So I developed these online modules from that particular training, and I did online trainings. And that, I think we've trained more than 600 people who couldn't have had access to that in-person training. And they've really given me a feedback that it's interactive. I make them talk about their experiences, South Sudan, Central African Republic, and all these very complex, complicated security environment areas. So my thing, I think, probably is that innovate, grow as you, don't be mundane, or don't get stuck in a bubble. If you have a challenge, learn from it and then tackle it and grow up. So there are, like, for example, if I was just sitting here and not doing anything, waiting for the in-person training to start, I would just, I think, I would have just rusted my brain. So a challenge should be used in a way to accept it, tackle it, and then go really get the best out of it. So that's what I look at it in every challenge that I've faced.
Very good advice. But now here we talk about, of course, always success and how you've got where you are, but it's also very important to talk about failure, because there are many things that we do that we don't always succeed at. And everybody needs to realize that really to be happy, one has to acknowledge the fact that failure is a part of life too. So could
Right.
you talk about, failures along the way and how you've dealt with them or how you've learned from them?
I'm so happy you brought this up. So I would just probably replace the word failure with challenges. And I see that I don't see anything as a failure. I see a thing as a challenge. And I'll give you an example. When I joined the Philippines UN office, and the first month of my joining in, I was asked to give a presentation to all the heads of UN agencies, and I didn't even know what I was going to talk about. So I was very stressed, and then I was sent to the conflict island in the southern Philippines as a security officer and an analyst for a year. And I was absolutely new to the UN. I was told to give training. So I said, okay. And what happens is when you have, you want to prove yourself. You're new to an organization and when you want to give in your best, you work double harder. But at that time, I was like, okay, I can't, as you said, I can't fail. But I do realize that pushing yourself too much doesn't work. So give your best as much as you can do, but do not get overstressed or do not push yourself to the limit that you get affected emotionally and physically. So yes, failures are there. Failures, you can meet sometimes deadlines. So accept them, speak to your senior manager, whoever, that this is a problem I'm facing, discuss it. And there's always a way around. So yes, several challenges came along my way, but I think luckily, as I said, I also have very strong family support, right? So I used to call up my parents and my father. I'm like, what do I do? And they gave me very sound advice, and had some senior colleagues who were also my mentors. So yes, several challenges, but again, I didn't see them as success or failure. I saw them as challenges, and I overcame them.
Amazing. And I've seen you, as you've grown from a young girl to where you are now. And you're such a great reflection of your parents, your father, an outstanding, army officer, and somebody who was really someone who people looked up to. Your mother, who's, such an amazing, singer, and somebody who's really taken preserving an art form to another level, and who still performs so beautifully even now. And who have been your greatest inspirations and why?
I guess top of the list are my parents, right? I always say I was very fortunate that from day one they pushed me, they supported me, they let me do what I want, and constantly gave me that. And my father used to always, I think, like your father, Jyotsna, we were very lucky that there was no difference between a girl and a boy. I mean, equal opportunities, and sometimes probably my brother would be complaining when he was younger that she got more than me. So my parents, my Masi, who's been a very big support for not just me, for my family. She's always been there for me. My colleagues, wherever I've been in the world, I've developed great friendships. Who, for example, I have a friend in the Philippines, and as something in the US, and she has connections. She's helped me there. Friends like you, friends like Sahaj, all my Simran and all my friends have been great supports. But yes, my parents and my brother, who's been giving me the most sound advice. He's like a father figure in my life, and he's a great source of support for us now. And he's always been very patient. So these are my biggest inspirations. Yes.
And for women who work, that's something that's really important, right? Very often women lose their friendships as they get older and as they get caught up in work. But I think friendships are really, apart from your family, the biggest support system that one can have.
Absolutely. And I've been so fortunate. In fact, as I always say, like our friend Simran, right? Simran Kochar, I think, and she's like our base here. We come and she connects us all. She's always there for us. She's such a positive person. And I always say, for friends, as we are there to pull each other up, right? So this is what friends should be doing, and that's why we've been friends for so long. You give me so much positivity. You encourage everyone, Jyotsna. You've gone to the extent of helping people you don't know also, and I've seen that at a personal level. So friends, that's why friendships. And I would, again, this is my advice to everyone, that none of us are perfect, and so oversee some things and keep the bond strong, because family is family. Few of them, as I say, have been there for us forever. But friends, oh my God, biggest support structure. My friend Aisha in New York she's like a sister to me, so yeah.
So again, this leads me to my next question about the balance, between personal and professional life. How has your personal life been impacted by this kind of career where you've been across so many continents, and how do you strike a balance between both of your personal and professional life?
So as you know, my partner couldn't strike that balance with me just when I joined the UN. Unfortunately, it's easier said than done for some people. And I was like, okay, this is something where I need support. And then, so that all it began. And then I think striking a balance is all about prioritizing everything. I've seen my colleagues do it. I've seen myself do it, that you prioritize what is more important. When you have family, when my father was unwell, that was my priority. I was very fortunate that my boss at that time and my colleagues were very understanding. I had a team under me, and my own boss said, Tanya, that is priority. And I worked from home for a few months, that was the last 6 months. So you prioritize, you see what's important, and balance. Even if you have a husband, you have family, and I've seen enough of my colleagues doing that, and I think it comes both ways. So I always say that women are getting so far ahead. It's high time men also understand that to support them, right? We've supported them, and to support them and be there also equally.
Exactly. It's like two hands holding up, the roof or the sky. So if one falters, the other one needs to be there for each other. Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest challenge to female leadership? And how have you dealt with being a woman leader?
I think certain misconceptions, Jyotsna, that, oh, okay, she's got to a certain position because that comes as first. And I'm like, no, we worked harder because we were judged more than a man, especially in my field. So I've given my 200, 300% when someone from the opposite gender would just be giving probably 100%. And not all, I'm not generalizing here. And also women leadership, there's a misconception, that women can't work together. I was asked by a former colleague, I can't put two women in the same office because they'll kill each other. I said, what are what are you saying? In this day and age, you're talking like this. So I think some people still don't see, and they say, she might be in a bad mood because she's a woman, things like that, or she might be biased towards something, or she has her kids to look after. So women leaders have much more challenges than men, definitely. Again, I'm not generalizing, but yes, in my case, and in my colleagues' case, I've seen it and faced it. So I again see it as a challenge that, okay, let's go through it, let's work through it, and let's prove ourselves. And we, I think majority, as you know, we've proven ourselves to be good leaders, but at the same time to be very understanding leaders as well, where we understand problems of each other beyond work. When someone has family issues, and we multitask, we delve out responsibilities in a more balanced manner. So I think, yes, women leadership have faced a lot of challenges, especially in my field, but it's a great learning experience, and how you prove yourself. Work harder and prove yourself. Actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely. And who better to hear that from than you? Now, to any woman out there who's listening to you, young girls who are interested in this kind of career, what would be your advice to them? And this is especially now as we are in this post-pandemic world, where actually more women have dropped out of the workforce and are finding it equally harder to get back in it.
And I would say that get back. And I said, like my father used to always tell me, there's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing a woman can't do, And now I think the younger generation is more lucky or more fortunate because of wider opportunities in front of them. We had more limited opportunities. So I would tell the girls, go for it, work hard, be focused. So if you're going into one field, stay focused. And because I see a lot of youngsters now also saying, okay, I'm not happy. Okay, you can move from one field to the other, but decide what you want to do. Because to get to a certain point, you have to give in a lot of time, energy. You have to invest that. And then again, for women, you might face challenges. You might face a lot of problems. Don't let that pull you back. World is your oyster. Go for it. And seek advice. Seek advice from mentors, colleagues, family, people in the same field. And never never hold yourself back and say, I can't do this. So I'm all out for it, because I've seen women working in areas where you wouldn't even think a woman would probably go there, and and so there's nothing that we can't do.
Absolutely. And apart from all this, I want to tell all of you, I mean, I told you a little bit in our introduction that Tanya is also a very gifted, singer, and she's trained also in the Drupad tradition. So talk about your music and, what it has meant to you.
Right. So as you've already mentioned, my mother is, music is her passion, and Sufi folk, and she's reviving the folk from, parts of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. So I learned Drupad, of course, and from 10 years from the Agar brothers, the late Agar brothers, and their son. That gave me a classical base. Then, of course, I used to, accompany my mom and sing with her, and just probably subconsciously learned all her songs, ghazals and Sufi. And then when my father was unwell, and we had a lot of music, we have a musical environment in the family. We had qawwalis at home. We had the violin played at our house, so things like that. So I love music, and I've got back to practicing it, and my mother was very happy also. When my father was unwell, I learned all his favorite ghazals and all the old songs like Ke Sara Sara and sing it to him. So music is something where you also, it's like my mother said, it's meditation. It's, where you can just go into a different sphere, especially when you're stressed. So the different dimensions that it's just not singing. Like folk music, it's expressing a woman's emotion, like she found out. They couldn't do it in those areas and in those environments. They did it through music. So I've got back to it, and I'm really happy about that.
Amazing, and I hope we're going to hear you and your mom perform sometime soon. I can share the YouTube links of there have been performances of Tanya and her amazingly gifted mother, Tanya Mohan, who's also here today. So Tanya, what is the secret to your resilience? You have seen so much, I think, pain and anguish where you have gone, and at times there's not an immediate answer to the problems that people are facing.
Right.
So what is the secret to your resilience?
I think it's a very good question, and probably came as got part of my the way I was brought up, and I saw a lot of misery. I've seen a lot of I've seen colleagues getting injured. We've lived in bunkers and things like that. Seen extreme poverty, famine, children, getting affected, and at that time you feel, I wish we could do more, and then you feel that you could not let yourself feel like that, because you sort of send those vibes to the people there. So you have to stay very strong and remind yourself that stay strong for them. This was my main motto, that I can't show some sort of weakness, or and some sort that I'm vulnerable, because then how would they feel? So stay strong for the other people who are more needy and who need more. And again, as I said, stay grateful. So that helped me be very resilient. And I kept telling myself there's nothing I can't do. My father, he used to keep telling me, I said, I'll face challenges. Anything can come, but there's nothing that I can't do.
Absolutely. I think that's an amazing message for every woman out there, that basically, if you believe that you can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, nothing can come in your way. Yes, you face challenges. Yes, you face hurdles, but it's not impossible to go through that.
Absolutely. Now we've got so many people who are waiting to ask you questions. So we're going to ask a few of them to come in and ask you. I think Divya Malhotra is here on Zoom with us. And Divya, are you there? Would you like to ask your question? We can ask Kopal Trivedi then first to ask her question. She's a 20-year-old who wants to.
Sure, and so happy so many young people are online. It's always, you learn so much from them also.
Yeah. Kopal, would you like to unmute and ask your question directly to Tanya? Okay, so maybe she's not able to unmute. Her question was that she is now 20 years old and she wants to know how she can build a career in the UN.
Right. So, Gopal, I think the best way is you go onto the website called Inspira. That's INSPIRA.org, and all the UN vacancies and positions and jobs which are there are posted there. You see what applies to your experience. You're still very young, so I would say do your masters because that's also required. Do an additional language, and then see which field you want to get into. If you want to get into UNICEF, for example, you can work with a certain NGO or an INGO, get some work experience along with educational the requirements or qualifications, and then go onto the website. You can come in as a United Nations volunteer. You can do internship. For that, you need a master's. And there's a young people professional program, and there's an exam. And I've seen some of my brilliant colleagues who have come in through the YPP program. So you just need to spend time, do some research, and see what you want to do and apply.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And it's great to see that we have the daughters of some of our friends here. I can see Dia's daughter Tarini is here, and a friend of mine's daughter Nuseba is here. So to these young girls in school, girls, do you have a specific question that any of you want to ask Tanya? So what are the subjects? See, somebody sent this question from Facebook, that what are the subjects that one should take if you want to get into the UN and international relations?
Right. So something like in my field, where you're an analyst and you're looking at trends and security trends, conflicts, etc. Requirement is and use international relations or any related, political science stream of studies, masters, of course. But this is for my kind of work. Now, if you want to get into UNDP, then there's of course different streams. Maybe you need to do something. Every job there has it very clearly written and spelled out what are the academic qualifications needed. So maybe international development has something more economically related, or if you are into World Food Program, maybe something related to nutrition degree, etc., etc. But my field, international relations, strategic studies, political science, and associated fields streams of are there.
And now we've got another question from Kopal. Is it necessary to know a second international language other than?
Kopal. Yes, Kopal, and you have to be extremely fluent, because we do get some, when I'm on the panel of interviews now for some UN jobs, and we do get people who say yes, and then, I have lost practice, etc., etc. So when you do take a second language, you have to be proficient in written and verbally and in written as well.
And now that's for young people joining the UN. Now we have another question
for everyone.
From Divya Malhotra about how do you, in your mid-career, is the UN something that you can consider, and what is it that they look at?
Right. At any point, see, mid-career, you have a great amount of experience that you bring in, which is also very important in some of the posts that the UN requires. So it depends on which position you're applying to and at a certain level. So the higher level, mid-career, we get a lot of people from mid-career coming in because they bring in a vast years of experience and expertise. So yes, mid-career have equal opportunities. But the second language is there for everyone.
So of course, English being the first language that everybody would need to be proficient in to apply to the UN, and then any of the international languages.
Right. And then some of the positions it's mentioned, for example, if it's somewhere in Africa, like Cote d'Ivoire or some other country where French is, the national language. So they mention it specifically. So you have to see, again, go into the website and see what language, but yes, one of the languages is French.
Okay, so we can also just type up this website. Can you just tell me the website again? Inspira?
I'll type it here.
Okay, great.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this direct link and put that link here.
Great, thank you. I think that's going to be very relevant to people. We'll post that link also under the video, where the video is posted on our Lucknow Farmers Market Facebook page. Right. And we will be also uploading the same video onto Lucknow Farmers Market on YouTube, so that a lot more people can actually view this.
And also, I would suggest every country has, and especially India, we also have the United Nations here, and they have a country office. So we can go into the United Nations India office website. Or if you want to work in a different country. So species specifically different country, their office website, because they have sometimes different posts, or projects or consultancies.
Okay, great. So I think that has been such a huge, learning experience for everyone who's listening. And thank you, Tanya, so much for joining us today. And thank all of our wonderful listeners and everyone who's connected with us here on Zoom as well as on Facebook. Kopal, that's one last question that you get now. Do you want to ask the question or are you typing it out?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Actually, ma'am, in the UN, does computer science engineers have career options, or they have to change the field for pursuing master?
I'm sorry, Jyotsna, I couldn't get the whole question.
Do computer science engineers, what was Kopal? I think you have to type out your question. We couldn't hear it clearly. We'll just wait until Kopal types it out. Because
Ma'am, now am I audible?
okay, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I was asking, like, in UN, is there like any career options for computer science engineers, as if after pursuing bachelor's, we have to change our field or stream for pursuing master to get in the UN career, to take a UN?
For me, there's so many different agencies and there's so many different fields in those agencies, units, departments. And I wouldn't be knowing that computer science as such is applicable to which type of agencies. But you search the website, type in the keywords there, and you'll see what is applicable to computer science or whatever field or degree that you are pursuing.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And I think what we've learned today from Tanya is that nothing is impossible. So if you believe you can do something, you just have to be, you have that passion and that sort of, belief in yourself that you can do it. And it's an amazing ability to be actually able to bring about a change in the people, in the lives you touch and the teams that you work with. So I thank you so much, Tanya, for talking to us today.
Thank you, Jyotsna. I told you, my pleasure, biggest honor to be in such a prestigious event and such wonderful to be, meeting so many and hearing so many people. So I would say it's thank you to you.
One song for Tanya, ma'am.
Okay, here's Parvati from the Jaipuria Institute in Lucknow. Okay, Parvati.
शाम कुछ अजीब थी, ये शाम भी अजीब है, वो कल भी आस पास थी, वो आज भी करीब है, वो शाम कुछ अजीब थी. Dedicated to Tanya ma'am, because ये भारत से है, लखनऊ से है, हमारे आसपास है. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I wish and I hope आपको और सुनेंगे.
It's just lovingly I am presenting. हमारी लखनऊ की तो शान ज्योत्सना है, वो अपने नाम को पूरा कर रही है. तो बस मुझे कुछ कहना ही नहीं है. She is lovely person here in Lucknow. She is doing a wonderful job. मैं witness हूँ. मैं क्या बताऊँ? She is amazing. Just single word, amazing. And same as you, Tanya ma'am.
नहीं आप भी. Each one of us, Parvati ji. And again, आप please touch में रहिएगा क्योंकि हमें और सुनना है.
Wonderful.
Thank you, my dear.
That was a lovely way to end our session. Thank you all very much and look forward to seeing you again next Saturday.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you again.